What is up, you art fiends? Welcome back to the channel. We have reached the month of May, which means it's time, once again, for one of my favorite drawing months, Mermay. If you aren't aware of what this is, for the whole month of May, artists will create things that relate to mermaids. Some will create a few things, while others will create every single day. Some follow prompts and some just create without one. These drawing challenges happen a lot. Some of you may be familiar with Inktober, which is probably the most popular of them all. I'm usually really bad at keeping up with these monthly challenges. I failed at finishing Inktober 2 years in a row. I did manage to finish September last year, which was in September, but I also had a lot more time since I was sitting on a train commuting to work for 40 minutes a day. This year, I am determined to complete the entire month of Mermay, creating one drawing a day based off of the official prompt list from the Mermay Instagram page. I figured making videos from my creations would force me not to give up halfway through the month. I was the mermaid person my senior year of college, since my thesis film was all about a mermaid, so I have a deep love for this fantastical species. I thought this would be a good time to focus on character design. I want to be able to explain a character's personality just from the design, the pose, and possibly even the setting. I am someone who heavily avoids backgrounds. If I don't have to draw them, I won't. So for a lot of these, I wanted to put them in a setting that helps to push the characterization. I also thought it would be fun to use real sea creatures as the basis of the designs, so I have a starting point. However, I am being very specific about what animals I choose for each mermaid. They can't just be random fish that I think are pretty. The reasoning behind the fish has to fit with the prompt or the character design that I'm going for. So with that out of the way, let's start going through my first week of Mermay. So let's get started with day one. The prompt for this day was celebration. So for each of these, I start off with a little thumbnail to figure out what layout or pose I want. For this one, I wanted something where the mermaid was holding up a chalice of some kind in celebration. I thought it would be good to show the hands of other mermaids too, to show that she's not just oddly celebrating by herself, and this is more of a group event. Also adding a very simple background of a sea floor to place them somewhere. I decided to not make her a real fish, but instead a carp streamer. They are flown in Japan to celebrate Children's Day, which actually happens on May 5th at the end of Golden Week. Each carp represents a different member of the family, and the more kids you have, the more carps are added. I thought this would fit perfectly with the theme of celebration, and the streamers themselves have these really fun, vibrant colors and interesting patterns. I also decided to throw in a crown to further push the celebration idea. Maybe she's royalty and they're celebrating her, or she just won some kind of event and was given a crown to show she's the winner. For the chalice, I first tried a conch shell since they already have an opening in them, but it was becoming obvious that holding it to drink out of would be a bit difficult, especially since I wanted to show the liquid inside of it flowing out with the movement of the character. So I went back to the generic seashell idea I had originally. The colors are all going to come from the original fish I use, and since this is from the carp streamers, I took directly from them. I also designed patterns based off of the patterns on the streamers. I'm using a simple 1-point light source, nothing crazy going on. And that is day one, our carp streamer mermaid. The prompt for day 2 was warrior, so I knew I wanted to create a badass mermaid. I already had the idea of using a shark as the basic animal for it. I also wanted to give her a weapon and figured a trident was the most common weapon seen with underwater characters. This also fit with the sharpness that I wanted to show with a shark. After sketching some poses, I started to go into a larger version, but when I was almost done with the basic body, I started to not like it. It wasn't dramatic at all, and it didn't didn't give off this aggressive warrior look that I wanted. The silhouette of the body seemed basic to me as well, and I knew I could do better. So I went back to the drawing board and I came up with a much better pose. I had to change my canvas size to fit this, but sometimes these things must be done. Off screen, I was looking at different paladin armors to work into the design of this mermaid. I wanted her upper body to be armored at least. She is a warrior, so having her protected made sense. I decided to include sharp points where I could on her armor. I wanted to emphasize that she is not to be messed with, and sharp points on the design convey danger. I didn't add a background on this one since she already took up the entire canvas, but the complexity of her design compared to other ones I made up for this. For her colors, I decided using red as an emphasis color on her outfit would be great to continue this danger idea. It also stands out on her mainly blue body. So, that is our shark warrior. Day 3 was sunset, and immediately the picture of a mermaid on a rock with the sunset behind her came to my mind. First, I thought maybe having her leaning on a rock looking at the sunset would be nice, but I soon realized this would crop a lot of the mermaid out of the picture, and I wanted to be able to focus on creating the mermaid design. So I instead went with her sitting on a rock facing the viewer with the sunset behind her. For the animal, I went with a goldfish. I wanted a yellow or orange fish since this is all about the sun, and a goldfish is the perfect choice with those colors in mind. There are a lot of fun interactions happening in this that I really like. The ringing of her hair and the way her tail dips into the water specifically. I like to try and figure out different ways that the scales of a fish can play into the design of the mermaids. So for each of these, I try to change up how much is scales and where they are placed. The colors on this one I really enjoy. The mermaid is very simple, just 3 colors in total, but the way this contrasts the blue of the water and the sky really helped to show her off. Adding the reflections onto the water too is also fun to play with. I really wanted to push the lighting here since the sun is setting behind her. She has to be backlit. I wanted it to be super dark too in the shadows to push the time of day. This one came out a lot better than I thought it would when I started for sure. So here is the goldfish mermaid. Oh boy, so the prompt for day 4 was Star Wars, since it was May the 4th. I had an idea of creating an alien species based off of a fish that was also a Jedi. So I first tried to find the most galaxy-looking color scheme on a fish that I could find. What I discovered was the koi betta fish. I didn't know these existed before, but they are absolutely gorgeous. Their colors are so striking, and I knew I just had to use it. I didn't pre-plan this one, I just went right into the design. I just knew that she had to be holding a lightsaber somehow. To make her look alien, I made her face more oval-shaped and kept her eyes towards the bottom of her face. This way, she looked more like a fish than a human. Koi betta fish have these luscious tails, so she definitely needed to have that. As for her outfit, I just used images of Jedi as a reference to give her the cloth robe look that they all seem to wear. Her colors were where things got really weird. The colors of the original fish are all over the place, with blues and reds and whites plastered all over their body. I tried to keep it somewhat organized, so it wasn't completely random where I placed colors, making sure every color showed up in at least more than one place on the body. For lighting, I wanted the main light source to be the lightsaber, and it also gave the little glow to the things around it. She probably makes herself float around using the Force, so I gave her a little outer glow and I added some dots to represent stars behind her. And with that, it makes our Jedi alien mermaid girl. The prompt for day 5 was royalty, and I went right into designing a scene for this one. I wanted to show a mermaid sitting on an underwater throne of some type. Having a seashell throne made the most obvious sense. When I started to pose out the mermaid, however, I decided to show her leaning on the throne in a relaxed position. So I added some rocks instead of just having the entire thing be a clamshell. The type of animal for this one is super interesting. She's based on a porpoise since they are the royal fish of the UK. Apparently, whenever something in the porpoise family was caught, it would immediately become property of the king and queen. So, using a very generic porpoise to include everything within this species made sense. These are very large animals, so I didn't want to make this mermaid skinny. She's a ruler who gets what she wants. She deserves to have some weight on her. I knew she had to have jewelry on, especially a crown. I also included more shells on her design to relate back to the throne she sits on. I personally don't like the idea of mermaids wearing clothes, unless it's things like armor or objects that make sense underwater. Fish don't wear clothes, so why would mermaids? But since I knew I'd be using these for YouTube, I have to come up with cheeky ways to cover the titties. Or at least not show any nips. So for this one, I decided having a huge golden necklace on her would not only solve my boob issue, but also add to her royal look. For colors, she is a simple gray and white in her tail. Having her hair also be white would help unify her. For her skin, I wanted her to be darker skinned since the main color of the porpoise is a dark gray-blue color. I also added patches of lighter colors into her skin to connect it with the white color of the animal's belly. And that is the Royal Porpoise Mermaid. Day 6th prompt was Tsunami. The image of a huge mermaid lady commanding waves came to my mind, and I knew that that was what I had to create for this one. First was figuring out the composition of this. I wanted her to be in a commanding pose that showed her affecting the waves. I also wanted to include the shore somehow, since when you think of tsunami, you don't think of waves in the middle of the ocean, but those that devastate the land. This huge sea goddess I was creating had to be based off of a large sea animal. I want to save whales for some other things, and technically that is a mammal, not a fish. So looking for the largest fish, I decided on the whale shark. This worked perfectly for me since sharks are seen as more aggressive and dangerous than whales are to most people. So having this be a destructive, malevolent being fit well. For colors, I wanted everything dark and ominous. The blue-green colors of the whale shark work well for the mermaid design since she is supposed to represent the ocean itself. I wanted the shadows to be dark and strong, the light from the lightning in the background being what's illuminating the scene. If I went at this again, I probably could have pushed the composition more, maybe putting it at a crazy dramatic angle, but for what I finished with, it's not too bad. That makes the angered sea goddess. Doing a 180 on themes, the next prompt is Tranquil. I got this one pretty quickly composition-wise, just a nice looking mermaid relaxing on a little secluded beach. No huge dangerous waves here. When choosing an animal for this, I looked for the colors first. I wanted something mellow, so I looked for blue teal colored fish, and I found the Sergeant Major. It has nice cool colors and a very striking pattern that makes it stand out. This relaxed position was really nice to draw, just a cute mermaid sunbathing. This is where my internal struggle of covering the boob really began. I gave her short hair and I really didn't want to do the shell bra thing since I really don't like that trope. So after a lot of debating with myself, I decided to just go with a pattern on her chest. This way everyone wins. The colors came right from the Sergeant Major as well as the stripe pattern. I kept everything simple and calm, and that makes this mermaid. Okay, I know, there's 7 days in a week, but I'm throwing in an 8th into this video, so every video in this series can have an even number of drawings in them. For day 8, the prompt was heroic. I wanted to make sure that this was different from the warrior design. This turned into this full scene that looks like it could be part of a bigger story. I wanted to have one mermaid jumping in front of another mermaid to protect them from some kind of attacker. This is the first one with more than one mermaid in it, so I wanted to choose two different fish. For the protector, I found this fish that is literally called the Hero Severum fish. It has hero in its name, I mean, come on. It's also a weirdly colored fish, so I knew I could make something with it. For the other mermaid, I wanted something cowardly, so I looked for a small fish. I went with the zebra fish, which is a small fish similar to minnows. I wanted the scared mermaid to be injured from whatever is attacking, and I thought that a human diver with a harpoon could be a good enemy to include. I gave very simple armored plates to the heroic mermaid, showing off how she is a guardian, but she isn't as decked out as the warrior was. This is more of a selfless act rather than an aggressive one. I really enjoyed this one. There's a lot more of a scene in something greater than anything else I've made so far. So yeah, that makes our heroic mermaid. Oof, wow, that was a lot of mermaids. This is such a fun challenge in both character design and storytelling. If you want to take part in Mermay, just post anything mermaid related that you make this month. If every day is too much for you, you don't have to follow a day-by-day prompt. So long as you create something mermaid related, you've done it. I hope you enjoyed this. This is going to be a series, so stick around for the rest of this month to see the rest of my mermaid creations. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to see these as I post them daily. All links are in the description down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things that the YouTubers say. Peace.